Well, welcome into the Cameron Studio podcast room where we are located here on the Cetus building at Cameron University, part of the Oklahoma Sports Network. That's where our main offices are, and we're just right down the hallway here in the podcast room. And we want to thank them and the new president that's come on board. That is really he's into marketing, so he really loves this kind of stuff and loves opportunities for students to be able to use this. And so we get the extra advantage of having not only a great relationship with Cameron University, but also the podcast studio. So welcome into the point after, as we are gearing up for as the conclusion of summer. And that little silence before the storm, as we would say, for those who are football frenzied like myself, you just can't wait, for everything that's online about 7 weeks from kickoff and 5 weeks until this. And, so you get the whole motion of, so the NFL has started with their preseason, so to speak, the camps that have opened up with all 32 teams. So it starts with the NFL, of course, college right around the corner, and high school. Yes, I always say after the 4th of July, summer is over. Get ready for the season because school starts back up in August. So make sure with our 13 schools that you can stay connected to, just download our app on Apple and Android devices. Also Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can watch all of our live presentations there, and then connect to us socially, wherever you find yourself socially, whether it be on Facebook, Instagram, or on X. So we've got our first guest. It's going to be a head coach of one of our high school football programs. And we'll start with Brett Manning. We'll bring him in for the Macarthur Highlanders. And first and foremost, Coach, thank you for being with us today. And let me ask you, how has your summer been? I know for teachers, it's a short window. It's kind of like you got this, you got that. Let's fly away, jet somewhere, and then you got to get back and get ready.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. But yeah, it's been a good summer. Always is. Get a little more downtime in June. We have open weight room in the mornings in June, but then also have a lot of time to be with family. Took a vacation to Mexico this year with my group of five, and just had a great time and got back right before the 4th of July, and then really started hitting it hard on the 7th, right after Dead Week.
Yeah. Do you like Dead Week? I know that they had to officially make it that, before it was kind of like people doing stuff. And you kind of,
Yeah.
I know that you've kind of appreciated that. How does that give coaches and players really the rest that they need?
Yeah, I think it's probably good. When they first did it, I wasn't necessarily for it just because I felt like we always gave our kids some time off, and I think it's important that they have time off. I didn't necessarily like it mandated to me, but we've gotten used to it, and it's good, I think.
Before we really get into the X's and O's in your program specifically, as a general view, and let me ask you this: how many years now going into coaching for you, head coaching?
Head coaching, so I'm starting my 17th year. It's crazy. I felt like my dad was the MacArthur coach forever, and he was the head coach for 16 years. So,
Okay.
starting this year, I will have been there longer than he was.
Longer than him, and that's
Yeah,
a strange thing. And I
it
know
is.
following in the footsteps of your dad, who is legendary and of course had a lot of success and Hall of Fame coach, by the way, too. I
Yeah,
will add 16 years of that, and you look up and you say, "Man, where did the time go?" And I would have not guessed that. It just
yeah,
seems like when you start playing that game of how many years it's been. Oh, well, it's been 8 years, right? Maybe 10. 17. You go, wow, where's the time gone? And your whole kid's grown up. I know your daughter graduated,
yeah.
your sons are in high school, and we remember when they were just kind of
Oh
dancing
yeah.
around, some toddlers to all the way through grade school and whatnot. But let's talk a little bit about the changes in, not only it starts with college or the NIL and then the transfer portal, but high school saw a little bit of that about open transfers in July as a whole. And I know sometimes we in Southwest Oklahoma don't get affected as maybe in the metro or maybe in the Tulsa area
Yeah.
that gets to see a little bit more of that because there's a lot more choices available for that. How do you think that has pro or con been for high school athletics?
I don't necessarily like it. I don't. I think that. Like you said, I think it affects the Tulsa and the Oklahoma City area a lot more than it affects us down here. Although we benefited from it a little bit, and but just overall, I'm not a fan of it. But I am glad that we're, down here in Southwest Oklahoma. It's not just the wild, wild west like it is in the Tulsa and Oklahoma City area.
Well, you go on social media, and we're staying with that, whether you're on X or Instagram, and during that time frame, someone has put up, this kid transfers to this, and you just kind of swipe through it and you say, wow, it wasn't like one or two, it was about 10 or 15, and
Yeah.
how that works, and what's the decision factor in it. Like you said, we're kind of out of that element of having to, as far as a fan of high school football, you kind of keep an eye on it to kind of see who's been going where and what's been doing. But I just kind of want to get your take on that from being that you've been around for a long time. You've seen a lot of changes. I know college football is going through the same thing about the about the NIL and the transfer portal, and what does all that do? It's just a whole change complexity from when you were starting out as a player to go off into coaching, and to get to now. You would have 17 years ago when you stepped into this role, you would have never dreamed that we would be seeing what we're seeing right now, for sure.
Yeah, that's true. And, it is what it is. And, I've just told our coaches, we've got to win games. That's probably the number one thing, to keep our kids here. But, also, provide a good environment, a good culture, and create that buy-in to where they don't want to leave us. So it's a strange world we're living in sports these days, but we just got to roll with the punches and do what we can do.
Coach Brett Manning joining us for the Macarthur Highlanders. This is not just a Southwest Oklahoma problem, but I know that it's going to affect a little bit of coaching and communications with kids now with the new state law that's come in from bell to bell and not having phones. And I know a lot of times you can put a text message out, hey, practice has been changed, we're going to do this, or hey, I haven't seen you in the lunchroom, and did you get your nutrition? Or hey, I noticed that your grades are lacking over here. That communication text wise. So what is that going to do? And I know that you guys always roll with the punches. Coaches are always the first to say, okay, we got to learn how to use this wave, and how are we going to use it to what we need to communicate with. So what is your plans for that on a day-to-day basis with the high school students of today?
Well, it's going to be a change. Just, we use a lot of technology. Our the main thing for us in football and coaching is we have a weight room app that we use. So and a lot of people do, but all their workouts on their phone. And so, Coach Pushki does all of our weight room stuff. And we've been talking to people, talking to Bixby, because they use the same program that we do, and just trying to figure out how they're going to navigate it. And I think we've got a plan, with some iPads and stuff that we can use. But it's going to be different. We're going to have to adjust. Like you said, sending out messages is something that all coaches do, and they can still get those messages, but they're going to have to be on their computer to get them. It's not going to be nearly as convenient as having their phone. Overall, I think as far as the education part of it, I do think it's going to help education. The phones are a pretty big distraction, and if they don't have them, maybe they can do a better job in the classroom.
Well, and we hope that's the aim for it. And I know that's why they took that directive, I'm sure, was the
Yeah.
first and priority, especially where Oklahoma says that we rank in education. So we want to try to do a little bit better job with
Sure.
that. And going back, now you're going to join the old man's group. I always thought I was, getting to be an older guy, but 17 years of head coaching, and you say, we didn't have that problem 17 years ago with the distractions with phones, and that was an impossibility. So you had to wave through all that. So yeah, looking forward to that. Okay, let's just get into what we really like to talk about. Football, high school football, your program specifically, in our district, that we'll talk a little bit about, because there was a little bit of change up last 2 weeks. But one more added list housekeeping issue is clinics. Clinics is next week. You're going to be up there in the Tulsa area talking about that. Well, some of the things, and you told me prior to this broadcast that usually coming out of this meeting that we as fans want to know is, how is the district going to shape out for the next 2 years? Because this is the second of the year. So next year you're going to have to regroup. There's going to be an ADM. But you told me that that's not going to happen at this meeting. Is that correct?
Right. I'm on the advisory board for the Football Coaches Association and have been for quite a while now. And we really encourage the OSSAA to wait, instead of redistricting right now for the 26 and 27 school years. Let's wait and use a little bit more current enrollment numbers. So, we'll use the October numbers this coming up October, and then we will do our redistricting at our winter clinic in early January.
Well, and that kind of, and I say from a coach's standpoint, you also pointed out that that's really the fairest way, because otherwise you're going to go back to a May thing. And, this way it kind of really solidifies where you need to be. And so that's really cool that they're kind of standing off that. Also, the other thing, clinics, I mean, you're going to bring up different things. The coaches will have a whole week's worth to digest. But one of it is rules changes. And you really kind of said that usually it's a tweak here and there. There's never really, it's not like basketball where we're talking about putting in a shot clock or something like that.
Right.
So nothing off the charts, but I guess just kind of status quo, kind of going in. Maybe this or that may change, but not really anything that you're looking for rules.
I don't think there's anything major. Obviously we've got to kind of wait and see when we do that meeting, which is required for all head coaches. But go to that meeting and they will let us know the rule changes. Usually, if there's something big, it gets talked about, and we'll know beforehand that this is coming. So I don't anticipate that. I think some small little changes that they'll make us aware of.
Yeah, the only thing I remember of recent value was the jersey changes, because everybody was just getting so inventive with their color schemes, and they couldn't read numbers, and the officials were saying, I can't I can't really call a holding call on somebody if I can't really see their numbers, because they're
Yeah.
camouflaged or whatnot. And then I remember
Right.
that we go to the bigger block style back again. So, well, Coach, I know this is an exciting time for you. I know you get through summer and you're antsy to kind of get started, to put pads on and get started, and that's coming up right around the corner. But we're going to talk a little bit about your program as far as what I always termed, as far as calling your games, that's sophomore class. And now these sophomores are seniors. And so you say, boy, this sophomore class, you had Adam Austin, you got your starting quarterback, you got Josh at the wide receiver thing. You've got two of them. And by the way, and we put this on our social media, congratulations, out of the Daily Oklahoman's top 30 high school recruits for college level, you have two of them. And of the three in our OSN network, and we've got 13 schools, two of them are coming from your program. So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. They're very deserving. They're great athletes, and more importantly, they're really good kids. They're really focused. They know what they want to do. They're dedicated athletes. They're weight room guys. They're leaders. It's as coaches, we've all been around sometimes your best athletes are your high maintenance guys, and a little bit of a headache, and these guys are not. They are everything you'd want a high school athlete to be. So I'm proud of both of those guys.
Well, and your quarterback too was
Yes.
just as solid to get that. I know he's not getting the accolades as the other two did, especially in that format. But so goes the team as your field general that gets all the commands going, and he's got to be more comfortable than he ever was. I really never thought he was really shaken up as a sophomore, and his junior year was pretty solid. And so with that attention, with those two, and then you add the other mix that you have, do you think there's a little bit of pressure outside of the fact that the expectations, where that's the pressure I'm talking about, expectations for Macarthur? We saw what happened last year, the 2 years just getting in that playoff mode. Now, are we going to expect this to go a little bit further?
I do. I mean, I always expect it. I just, that's the pressure that we put on ourselves. I don't necessarily think it's outside pressure, because we expect to be good. We expect to win a lot of games. We expect to have a deep playoff run. So that's where our focus is, and that's what we want to do. And I think that everybody's on board. Kids are bought in, and we want to go out and have a great year.
Talk a little bit about this district. Last year you had some new faces. I mean, you had Elgin move out. Went back to 4A, but you brought Newcastle in that would came up from the 4A, so that was a new opponent. You had Bishop McGuinness, which really didn't see much outside of you hear about them in the playoffs, but you really didn't see them directly. You got that, and that's going to be again another last game of the season to kind of maybe decide some things for you. So. You think you got a little bit more handle on the newness of what you and I talked about. That district had never changed forever and ever. Amen. It was just always,
Right.
Caldas, Duncan, Ardmore. You go right down the list of who you thought you had. Now you had these new players, new teams that have been well. So how you take last year's experience with them going into this year?
It's 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 not as big a deal maybe as some people think. It's you're still just playing a game against an opponent, but they are when you have a couple of different opponents, it's maybe a little bit of adjustment, but overall, you still got to go out there and play. So um, we're excited about it. We think our district's good, and think we're going to have some really tough district games.
Well, and you've said that before. I think that's what you said about your non-district schedule for so many years, when you always had to play up when they were both 6A for playing
Yeah,
Lottie and Eisenhower. You always said, I remember you went 0-3 and still made a state title game. So it
yeah,
doesn't matter. And your dad, I remember him distinctively when I would interview him about those games. He says, you know what? I don't really care about those. I know the fans do, but he says I don't put a lot of emphasis on it. But the quality of opponent will get us prepared for our district, and that's really
sure.
what he was looking for. So I
Yeah.
think you kind of echoed the same thing. So going into this, this very short realm of, you put the pads on, you've got one less scrimmage because they take that away because you're a 0-week opponent. You've done that for the last couple of years. You had a kind of kind of reserved attitude about that, but then all of a sudden you liked it because you like the
Yeah.
bye week coming before district. So what would you like to see from your team? I know you got Carl Albert with that invitational on the 12th. What would you really like to see out of that to come out before you get into the season?
Well, we put all of our different things in, different plays or defensive looks, whatever, and go through spring ball, and then we go to a camp and get to try all that out, and then you spend the summer as coaches thinking about what's good, what's not good, what do we need to change, and that's how we'll start practice when it comes up, and then when we get to our scrimmage, it's kind of gives us another chance to reevaluate and see where we are, see if we like the changes that we have implemented so far in those first couple of weeks, and besides that though, just going out and competing and getting on the field against somebody other than our scout team and going against some good opponents is always really good for us, and I really like that scrimmage because I feel like it prepares us to go into some pretty tough pre-district games.
And then lastly, I just kind of say in a general thing, I'm not, this is not bulletin material, just to kind of take because, coaches are, should be very close to the vest of what their plans are. But I know your history because I've been around the program enough to you'll either tweak offense or change stuff. We're just going to go back to what your father brought in with the pop, and as well. Macarthur's going to run the pop, and that's the way it's going to be forever and ever. And then it changed, and then you came in, and then you adapted a little bit, maybe a new style of offense, a new style of defense, without really going into that. Do you have that, and are you excited to be able to get a little bit into that? Like one other thing is one year was a fast motion, where it was going to be straight to the ball, those kind of things. So you don't have to identify what it is, but do you have something like that, and are you excited to get that started?
Yeah, we made some pretty big changes defensively, and we're really excited about that. Spent all off season, learning about a new defense, and you gotta adapt, you gotta change if you don't think if you don't or if you don't think things are going well, or you think that you could be better here or there, you make those changes, and sometimes it's a little scary to do something that you haven't that you haven't done, because we were in the 3-4 for a really long time and had a lot of success with it. But just kind of felt like we were maybe a little stagnant and needed a change, and so we made that change. And um, so it'll be a lot different look defensively for us. Offensively, we always kind of adjust to our personnel and who we think are going to be the guys that we need to get the ball to, or guys that we need to get on the field. And so we'll do a little changing on offense like we always do, but nothing drastic.
Okay, and what do you do from this silent time? I heard guys, okay, they binge watch seasons of stuff, just because there's this lag of getting ready for it. We only have a little bit of weeks left. What do you find yourself doing to keep yourself preoccupied until we get started?
Well, there's not a whole lot of it right now. Things are pretty busy. This is a hectic time of year,
Yeah,
and we got finishing up summer pride, and we go on a senior retreat with our kids every year, our seniors. And then you got the clinic mixed in there, and just all the
yeah.
stuff, collecting physicals and getting all our forms done, and checking out equipment. And there's a picture day in there at some point, and it's there's not a whole lot of downtime. And it doesn't, to me, I really like to be prepared, and I don't know that I've ever gone into a day one of practice where I didn't feel like I wasn't prepared. I just,
Yeah.
there's not really any amount of preparation that can make you feel like you're 100% ready. But we just do it, and make the adjustments as we go. But not a whole lot of downtime right now.
And I know that you love that senior. I know you did this several years ago and you really loved it. And there's really a connection to those, and it's something to look
Yeah.
forward to if you're an underclassman. And we talked about that sophomore class. We're now seniors. So how many seniors on this team this year?
We've got 24, and it's a really good group. I'm really excited to we love all of our kids, and when we take these senior retreats, it's always fun. But there's also certain classes that you kind of look forward to, because they're such a good group of kids, and this is one of them. And we're really excited to go up there and just kind of get away from for a couple days and do some team building stuff. And we feed them really well, and have a lot of fun. So it's always a good time.
I know I said this is my last, so this is my last, but it's a podcast. We just kind of go on and have that. But
That's fine.
lastly, I want to just say that because I got an experience with the soccer field and having the Macarthur logo and having the stands,
Yeah.
and all three London schools are going to be able to host at least one. You have two this year
Yeah.
scheduled. So the fans will be excited to know that we really get a home game that's not a Cameron. Of course, the inner city games will be played there, the bigger schools, but some of the inner city schools that are coming to us, as far as you traveling to them, are going to be there. What's your feelings on that, and are you excited to see that happen?
Yeah, we're really excited. It's a really cool deal. We're proud of what Mr. Heim and the LPS administration has given us with the fields. And we're probably not totally ready to have varsity games there, as far as stadium capacity, and there's some things that's just not going to be perfect this first go round. But we're also really excited to play some games on our field, and I think it's going to be really fun. And we're going to maybe try to start a couple new traditions, and hopefully in 4 or 5 years, maybe we're playing all of our games there. So
Wow.
it's going to be fun. We're really excited about it.
Something. I mean, the lights are always on the east side a little bit when you say, oh, softball or baseball is doing something, but to have a football Friday night experience on the east side of Lawton, that's going to be something. So
Yeah.
looking forward to that as well.
Yep.
Okay, so Brett Manning for the Macarthur Highlanders, and good luck with you this season. Of course, we'll be following you. August
Thank you.
29th is going to be the first. We'll actually get a little glimpse when we do our football preview and our scrimmage on the 12th. Who are all the teams there? I know you and Carl Albert. Who else is going to be there for the 12th?
Well, I'm not totally sure. I know
Yeah.
Southmore's usually there, but they're
Yes.
not going to be this year. So I'll, Coach Dunn from Carl Albert, he'll send out an email detailing it all at some point. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not real sure who all's going to be there.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll be following you along the way, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Having a little bit of time on this podcast, and we'll be talking to you down the line.
Okay. Thank you.
That's Brett Manning for the Macarthur Highlanders and this edition of the Point After podcast on the Oklahoma Sports Network. Remember, download our free apps on Apple and Android devices, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV. Connect to us socially on Facebook, Instagram, and X. This has been a presentation of the Oklahoma Sports